In a not-so-distant time, in a peaceful and intimate village, a group of passionate and adventurous young people lived. They would gather around at night, tell stories, and sometimes engage in activities that would get them into trouble. Some of these young men always wanted to prove their courage to others, even if it was dangerous and unnecessary. One cold winter night, as everyone sat by the fire, one of them came up with a daring idea. He said that to prove his courage, he would go to the cemetery and drive a large nail next to an abandoned hut. His friends initially looked at him in surprise because the graveyard on that dark, cold night was scary. But when they saw that he was serious, they accepted his challenge and said, "If you succeed and come back, we will admit that you are the bravest of all." Some of them were also tempted and decided to join him. The young man picked up a nail and a stone and set off. His friends followed a few steps behind, but fear took over them when they got close to the cemetery, and they stopped. One said, "This is far enough. You must go the rest of the way yourself." The young man, who did not want his pride to be questioned, continued. The cemetery, in the darkness of the night, along with the sound of the wind and the dry branches of the trees, had an eerie atmosphere, but he was trying to keep himself under control. However, he went towards the abandoned hut, took a deep breath, and placed the nail on the ground. Then he picked up a stone and started hammering the nail. At that moment, a strong wind blew, and the edge of his clothes got caught under the nail. But he, unaware of this, finished his work and wanted to return. When he got up, he felt something was holding him and not allowing him to move. At first, he thought his friends were joking, but when he looked around and saw no one, fear overtook him. Suddenly, the wind slammed the half-open window of the hut against the door, and in the silence of the night, the sound echoed like thunder. The terrified young man screamed and fainted from fear. His friends, who heard his scream, were terrified and ran away. They did not dare to go back and see what had happened. When the villagers discovered the incident the following day, they went to the cemetery. They saw that he was still lying unconscious on the ground. His clothes were pinned to the ground with the nail, and he could not move from his place. One of his friends, who had encouraged him to do this the night before, said with a laugh, "Did you see? This was the same brave man last night who claimed to be. He nailed his skirt." The young man, who regretted what he had done, shook his head and said, "Sometimes having wisdom is more important than showing vain courage." The Persian proverb, "He nailed his skirt," describes someone who creates trouble for themselves through vain and ill-considered actions, ultimately making the situation worse. This is similar to the English idiom, "shooting oneself in the foot."